Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
We're at a point in American history where it seems like more happens in a decade than happened in the past 50 years. If you're an older person, you recall the assassinations of Kennedy, of Martin Luther King, maybe even the invasion of Vietnam. But for me, my generation, we recall 9/11 and of course the Oklahoma City bombing. I was a young child when it happened. I wasn't exactly sure what was going on. The teachers, told us that there was an event going on, but we didn't know exactly what was happening until we were able to go home and see the footage on the TV for ourselves. And I really wish, I was more awake at the time. Of course, I was a young child. I wouldn't have understood these things, but I really wish I would have had the state of mind to go and record these things on a VCR or something so I could have these police interviews, all this news footage to show it at a later date. Because the thing about this is the Oklahoma City bombing, there's a lot of initial reporting that was very good, but then you have the powers that be that come in and start to drive the narrative. Case in point, early on with the Oklahoma City bombing, they were reporting that there were bombs removed from the Murrah building. And I'm not talking about fragments of the original Ryder truck bomb. I'm talking about intact explodable ordnance. The bomb disposal unit came in and took out those bombs. But the official narrative says that Timothy McVeigh nor Terry Nichols never stepped foot inside the Murrah building, which is to say there's at least one other person involved in the Oklahoma City bombing, even if it was somebody acting completely separate from McVeigh and Nichols. To talk more about this, we have Holland Vandennieuwenhof of Radio Free Oklahoma. He is a filmmaker and writer. Thank you for joining us today, Holland.
Thank you for having me on.
Now, as I was talking in the intro, I was a very young child when the bombing happened. And I remember sitting in the school building and I wasn't exactly sure what was going on. We had heard that there was some type of attack in Oklahoma City. I'm, of course, from Tulsa, an hour away, and the teachers were buzzing about, but I didn't fully understand the seriousness of the situation until after I was able to get home and watch the footage, news footage of the bombing. And at the time, they were doing the best they could to get the information out there, as you've documented in your film, A Noble Lie, that you were writer-producer on. We had the early news reports, people like Terrence Janke, which we'll get to in one second. Also, the bombs they found inside the building. And when we talk about the bomb, we're not talking about fragments of the Ryder truck bomb. We're talking about a bomb disposal unit came into the building and removed those bombs. But much of that footage has gone astray and really isn't part of the mainstream narrative. Do you have any theories as to why that may be?
Well, there were pre-planted explosives inside the Murrah building. That's been proven many times. We've interviewed many first responders, many of whom would not go on the record, literally for fear of their lives, talking about finding other explosives at the scene. I interviewed one sheriff's deputy who talked of overhearing the ATF agents talk openly of swabbing the interior columns and coming up positive for C4 plastic explosive. In A Noble Lie, we interviewed several witnesses who saw people transporting C4 plastic explosive into the building, into the parking garage. They did not know what it was at the time. They were civilians. They did not recognize it. They just thought it was gray putty. But it turns out one of those suspects was Andreas Strasmeyer, as identified out of a police lineup. Andy Strasmeyer was likely a double agent. So we see the evidence for explosives inside the building tied directly to federal informants and double agents.
So when we talk about the bombing there, you've reported on it, we've reported on it as well, that, there's people out there the days before putting up what one witness, I believe she thought they were putting up telephone wire or something to that effect. And, we think about this official narrative of the bombing. They say in the official narrative that Timothy McVeigh nor Terry Nichols ever entered the building. So how do these bombs get there? Which in my mind says there's at least one other person, even if it was somebody acting completely independent of Nichols and McVeigh, somebody else had a hand in the bombing.
Well, there was definitely the hand of someone in the bombing. For example, there's a lawsuit being pressed right now in a Salt Lake City federal courtroom to release the videotapes to prove whether or not there was another person. Jesse Trentadue, the attorney, has a paper in his hand with a Secret Service timeline detailing multiple suspects, in their own words, exiting the trucks. Upon viewing the videotapes, they describe the scene as multiple suspects. One reason he's pressing for the videotapes. What we saw inside the Murrah building, you saw the explosives inside the building in the hand of someone else, perhaps, is that Tim McVeigh rented the wrong size truck. That bomb was supposed to go off. That truck bomb was supposed to detonate inside the parking garage where the bulk of the C4 was planted. Had that happened, it would have been nigh impossible to disprove the official story regarding the bomb damage because it would have been consistent. As it is, they just parked it in the street because they had nowhere else to park it. And the crater is asymmetrical to the damage inside the building, inside the parking garage. So it was because of a foul up, a mistake. The government is not all powerful and unerring. They mess up all the time. In fact, on these operations, they mess up more often than not. 9/11 should have been bigger. Oklahoma City was supposed to involve at least a couple other federal buildings. No one was taking the bait, however. So we see how these operations go down, who they're tied to, how they mess up, yet still how they try to derive benefit from these attacks.
Right. And one of the things you talked about there is the surveillance tapes. You know, as with any crime, when something happens, I want to see the footage. They said Holland robbed a liquor store. I'm like, okay, did the liquor store have a surveillance camera? Yeah. Can I see the footage of Holland doing it? No, we don't have that for you. So when we talk about these surveillance tapes, does the FBI have any surveillance video proof that they're willing to release to the public showing that this was the attack of a lone gunman or lone wolf, so to speak, being Timothy McVeigh?
We've all seen the famous perp walk of McVeigh being escorted from the jail into federal custody. We've all seen that where people are booing and hissing him and he's looking very stoic or mean into the camera or beyond the camera. What we've never seen is the footage of that same McVeigh walking out of the Ryder truck in front of the Murrah building. Because he did. I'm not saying McVeigh is innocent.
No, me neither.
Go
ahead.
And that's right. And he deserved what he got. But he was not alone. He was incapable of running an operation like this. Myself and Wendy Painting, my co-writer on A Noble Lie, we interviewed many people who were in the Army with McVeigh, and they all universally describe him as a total, quote, tool. He would do whatever he was told, but he was incapable of initiative. He was following orders. We have a videotape of someone we interviewed in Noble, saw McVeigh prior to the bombing at a payphone outside the Murrah building, cursing because the operation had been delayed for some reason. Quote, he said he told us to wait. He told us to wait, as in McVeigh has a boss. And he most definitely did have a boss. He didn't act alone. And that's something we're still tracking down. The problem the government is covering up is the boss was receiving a government paycheck at the time.
Exactly. Now let's talk about a different aspect of this. Terrence Yankee, he was a first responder, somebody there very early on the scene. I believe he was actually writing a ticket and dropped the ticket to go out and service the people who were in the dire straits. Now, Mr. Yankee, his official cause of death, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, Holland, was that he slit his wrist, climbed through a barbed wire fence, and then died in a field somewhere. It's my understanding that he had, was he anemic? He had some type of issue that they didn't think that he could slit his wrist and then go and walk several yards to end his own life.
It was a mile. Yes, he was anemic. You're correct, Jakari. Yes, Officer Terry Yankee was the first officer to respond to the bombed out federal building, no later than 4 minutes after the bombing. When he pulled up, the first thing he noticed was that there were several FBI agents watching what was going on in the bombed out Murrah building. He filed this away for later consultation, but FBI headquarters was at 50 Penn Place, 50th Uptown. We're at 4th Street, downtown, several miles away. Why were the FBI agents basically watching what was going down in the federal building? That is not where their office is or any of their offices are. The ATF office inside the Murrah building was, of course, empty. Terry Yankee continued on to rescue 8 lives that morning, pulling them out. Several of them credit him with saving their lives until he fell into the crater and injured his back. Until he injured himself, he was pulled out. He was recommended and was awarded the Medal of Valor for his actions that day. 1 year later, on the day he was supposed to receive his Medal of Valor, we actually witnessed his funeral. That was the day of his funeral. He had allegedly committed suicide just a couple days before, just prior to getting the Medal of Valor and leaving the Oklahoma City Police Department due to the harassment he experienced because he was talking about what he saw, asking questions. His body was found a mile from his blood-soaked car, several dozen knife wounds on his body. and the cause of expiration was a bullet wound that went upper right and exited lower left jaw. So we're supposed to think that he shot himself at a downward angle into the lower jaw, but not contacting the skin. This was ruled a suicide, yet no autopsy was performed, and no ballistic test performed on the weapon. Yes, it was a sham of an investigation to cover up the murder of Teriyaki.
Yes, that's a very awkward shot. Just like I believe it was Gary Webb, they said he shot himself twice in the head with a revolver. Just these bizarre things that they try to say that these people did to commit suicide. But we have to keep moving in here, and I want to ask you about a different topic, talking about some notes you sent me saying that the Oklahoma City bombing may be tied to a larger plot involving the CIA and even Saddam.
Yes, we are actually working on a second project, putting together material. I didn't think I was going to do that, but because we are actually now able to answer why and how it happened. With a noble lie, we just talked about basically deriding the official story, proving the government lied. And now we can actually provide some answers. It appears that the bombing operation in Oklahoma City was tied to an operation then ongoing in March of 1995 to unseat Saddam Hussein in a coup in Iraq. This is why we saw in the initial days after the bombing, even official authorities pushing the Middle Eastern connection to the bombing. That was the original script, to tie the Murrah building to Saddam Hussein, because the original plan in the CIA coup plan, which by the way was the largest operation of its kind literally since the Bay of Pigs. And I discovered this information in a bare archive of covert operations in the 1990s, the CIA's own open source history, just reciting of what they were doing in the 90s. I stumbled across this operation, the largest since the Bay of Pigs, and the plan was to pay off the Kurds in the north and the Shiites in the south of Iraq to rise up against Saddam in early 1995. This would serve, in their words, to isolate Saddam and make him basically the mayor of Baghdad. But to finish him off, we needed boots on the ground. What's the excuse? Well, Saddam supposedly getting revenge by bombing a federal building. And then now we have boots on the ground in Iraq to finish Saddam off. And because of the demonstrated ties, which me and Wendy have investigated, between the far radical right here, especially the racist right, and radical Islam in the 1990s, demonstrated by both their hatred of the U.S. government and their hatred of the Jewish people, there was often cooperation. They were going to tie the Murrah building to Saddam and also to the so-called racist far right here in this country and wrap it all up. As it was, though, like all government plans, it messed up. The Kurds couldn't cooperate. The plan was compromised. Bill Clinton would not provide air cover for the coup, and it fell apart. Parts of it went through, however, but Saddam apparently knew about it, and over 300 officers were purged from his military. As it was here in America, apparently the so-called far-right neo-Nazi angle was continually pushed, because Wendy and I have investigated in the southwest of this country, people who are being interrogated, actually being approached by federal informants prior to the Oklahoma City bombing, were pitching a script saying we need to bomb a federal building with ANFO, with TOVEX boosters, which is what exactly supposedly happened according to the script in OKC. So they were pushing the script, but by the time most people realized that it was a setup, apparently McVeigh and Nichols cooperated to some degree. McVeigh himself was probably an undercover cop. We haven't proven that yet, but we're still on the track of that.
All right, that sounds very interesting. When you get that project fleshed out, we'd definitely like to have you back to speak more on it. But Holland, as our time trickles down, I want to ask you, because I believe you are a veteran yourself, and we hear a lot of talk of the demonization, especially around this time of the month of April, demonization of the veteran, of the militiamen, and of course the actions of Timothy McVeigh help to portray this negative aspect. But as a veteran yourself, what do you think about this very negative connotation, saying that, if you're in the Army, you can't worship the God that you want, or once you're outside the Army, now you're a top terror threat? Do you think that's a logical perspective for our nation to take against our veterans?
And also you see the mainstream headlines now telling the military is telling veterans to maintain a low profile, not use military lingo in public, shut down their social media networks. Believe me, the military guys can take care of themselves from my personal one-on-one Al-Qaeda attack. This is to muzzle the military. When the Ron Paul campaigns happened, his number one contributors were from the military. More than any other candidate combined, his money came from the military, active duty, people like me. I was in the Marine Corps in March of 1995. If Oklahoma City had gone down as planned, I would have been in Baghdad backing up the coup attempt. If I had taken up my recruiter's offer of recruiter's assistance after boot camp, I would have been in the Murrah building on April 19th, 1995, and that recruiter was killed. I came very close, and I saw a lot of things in the military that woke me up to the true nature of this government, and I could have re-enlisted. They begged me to. I had a stellar career, but I knew I could not serve this system my entire life and be a slave to it, and one day perhaps be used to deprive American citizens of their rights. So there are a lot of people in the military who are awake, and they're trying to demonize the military with McVeigh. McVeigh was an undercover cop. He admitted to his first two sets of attorneys, told them, I was recruited out of the Army to infiltrate neo-Nazi activities. What I did at Oklahoma City, I did under order. His two first sets of attorneys resigned when they were told that, because they knew what they were up against and they had wanted no business to do with it. So the military veterans in this country are awake. They see the true nature of their government. They can fight back. And frankly, a lot of them don't have a whole lot to lose, especially when they're coming back to a ragged economy, no future. Their wars have been declared futile with ISIS taking over again. My unit was in Fallujah. Talking to my old friends about Fallujah being in ISIS hands right now is heartbreaking. They don't want them talking. They want to demonize them and get them out of the public discourse.
Holland Vandennieuwenhof is our guest. Holland, can you give us your final thoughts and also tell the viewers how they can keep up with your work?
Well, I'm working on some scripts now. My work will be coming out. Like I said, they're just in development stages. I am working on another Oklahoma City project. I guess you can connect with me on Facebook if you want to keep up with that. I'm not selling anything right now, so I really don't have any websites. I'm just researching Oklahoma City. Wendy, my co-writer on A Noble Lie, actually does have a 2-book deal with Trine Day, which I'm assisting her in research. And we're continuing the investigation. We were just out in Arizona just a couple months ago. Things got kind of hairy. And yeah, so it's fun. And you'll be hearing more from me. So thank you for having me on.
All right, thank you, Holland.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for our show tonight. Be sure to go to prisonplanet.tv and get yourself a free trial where you can see the Alex Jones Show, the nightly news, the special reports to Lawrence, all right there on prisonplanet.tv. Well, I'm Jakari Jackson from the Infowars Command Center, and we'll see you again Monday night.
Used since before the days of the Roman Empire to support the body's natural systems and enhance overall health. Introducing the new InfoWarsLife.com oil of oregano formulation, a highly advanced nutraceutical form of this key herb that has been traditionally used by civilizations for thousands of years to promote health. We have now procured the most high quality and potent forms of oregano oil on the market, sourced from top leading manufacturers to ensure a concentrated level of bioactive ingredients, extracted directly from the wild herb and sealed in easy-to-use capsules. You will no longer need to endure the burning of liquid oregano on the tongue. Wild crafted from the Mediterranean oregano species that experts agree is one of the most powerful and most challenging to acquire. This winter season, it's more important than ever to secure this true form of oil of oregano. Now available in our limited first run at InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139.
You are watching the Infowars Nightly News, which airs 7 p.m. Central at InfoWarsNews.com. And your support is helping us defend liberty worldwide.